What's up, everybody? Unrested back again with another JFAQ, and today we're going to talk about a subject that's actually really dear to my heart. And it was something that I never personally thought I would ever talk about because I don't really feel like it's related to Japan, and I try to keep everything related to Japan. But after my last J-Vlog, where I talked about how I was interested in things like Warhammer and RPGs and stuff like that, and showed some of my artwork from it, I got a lot of responses that were questioning what the status was of pen and paper type RPGs in Japan. And I thought, wow, I never actually thought anybody would be interested in knowing that, so I never actually talked about it. I thought it was my own personal hobby that I wouldn't bother anyone with, but if you are so inclined, I will deliver. So today we're going to talk about, does Japan have pen and paper RPGs? And first off, let me just get this right off the back. It's not including computer and console-based RPGs. Yes, of course, Japan has those. Everybody knows Dragon Quest, the most popular RPG out here. Final Fantasy, which is losing popularity quickly after number 13. And many more that I didn't even mention. I just mentioned the most popular. I'm sure I could get really specific and esoteric to each of you who like a certain genre and one that's gone on for game after series after series. But what we're talking about today is ones where people either sit down with a set of cards, dice, pen, or paper, books that let them use their imaginations. Maybe at the most they're using tiny miniatures to show where they are on a playing field, but for the most part, these are the games that are made of your mind that do not use computers and consoles, okay? Does Japan have their own versions? Yes, they do actually. Obviously in America, we know the most popular was always throughout, since the 1970s, Dungeons and Dragons, which I'm sure all of you have heard at. Urban legends of people killing themselves over it, which is completely untrue, but that one was one that was always popular. I played it since I was maybe in 5th grade, 6th grade maybe, back in America, and have loved it ever since. Although, I didn't recently pick it up again until I was contacted by another J-vlogger out here named Claytonian? Claytonian? Do I have his name right? I call him Clayton because that's his real name, but I think, if I'm correct, his J-vlog name is Claytonian. I really should learn everybody's J-vlog name and not call them by their real names. But anyway, he contacted me because he saw some of my artwork that I had posted before, and he said, "You look like you're into this fantasy stuff. Well, guess what? I Dungeon Master or Game Master a game. Perhaps you'd like to join us on Google+." And lo and behold, I actually found a small but very loyal group of gaijin here in Japan. One from Yokohama, two from Kyoto, and another from Saitama. And we all connect on Google+, and we play pretty religiously. I think almost every week we have at least one day where we play. It's for a short time because we're all busy people, some with families and some with very important jobs. But we make time for it because we all have a passion for it. So, if your question is, do gaijin play their own games that they're used to back in the Western countries? Yes, we do. And there's even game shops that sell them too in English and in Japanese. Now let me explain that a little more clear. As I said, Dungeons and Dragons, okay? Huge fan here. I've got even, the 4th edition, even though 4th edition sucked and I didn't really like it. I bought it. I'm more of an old school Gygaxian level player. I also went out and I bought those game board sets that they had recently for Legend of Drizzt, and I think the other one was Castle Ravenloft. And when you go to buy them here in Japan, everything is in English, but connected to the back is a plastic sheet of Japanese rules. Now let me take a little look-see here with you and show you that obviously these are the rule sets, but if you look at the bottom here, I don't know if you can see it, if it gets clear in the camera there, I can never tell, but that is the rule set in Japanese, okay? Anyway, let's move on to something a little bit different. The other thing people ask me about is the card games. Do people play the card games such as Magic, of course Pokemon, of course Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that? Yeah, of course those are really popular here in Japan. Even Magic 2 is completely in Japanese. And here's something I didn't actually know before I came to Japan, obviously. And even when I lived here until recently, a friend from Sweden who came to visit me taught me about how the Magic cards work. I know how Magic works. I've played the game. I've had fun with it. But I always thought, well, I can't really play in Japan because although I can speak Japanese, I don't really read very well at all. I will be 100% honest about that. My kanji reading skill sucks. And not to mention that the kanji used in old school games like that is actually like older kanji. Like, for example, in Old English we would say like thou art and stuff like that. Well, there is actually kanji that is the equivalent to that. It's like Edo era kanji or Edo era Nihongo. All right, so they have stuff like that too. Even in games like when you play Dragon Quest and stuff like that, the people will talk in older Nihongo, and sometimes I get really confused when I see that stuff because it might be simple, even hiragana, which obviously I can read. You know, everybody can read hiragana and katakana. I would hope if they live in Japan, but even then I wouldn't recognize the words, and I'd have to ask my wife, and she'd say, "Oh, well, that's a really old word for torch." And I was like, "Oh my God, when would I have ever learned a really old word for torch? I don't think I even remember the word just for torch, let alone the old word for torch." So you might run into stuff like that. So the same thing goes for the Magic cards, and I thought, well, there's no point in me ever buying these. I'll never understand them. I'll never be able to play with a Japanese person, even though they have the same passion for it and things like that, which is kind of a letdown, but whatever, you know. And then my friend from Sweden said, hey, no, that's not true. There's actually numbers on every card, and you can go to look them up online, and they'll have a translation of the card online. Now, I haven't done this yet. I haven't checked it out. You know, if that's completely wrong, you can yell at me and flame me all you want. I don't really care. But I thought that was a really great idea. Well done by Wizards of the Coast. The same thing goes with a lot of other of the most popular American-style RPGs. They also have their own versions of miniature battles, such as, you know, there's got the Warhammer Fantasy Battles. They have their own called Battle Breaker, and they sell tons of miniatures for that. And one thing I've got to say is I really wish I understood how the Battle Breaker game worked, because Japanese miniatures are way cheaper than any of those Games Workshop ones or Dungeons and Dragons ones. They're just like crazy cheap. So if you get out here and you learn how to play it, buy them all up and have a ton of fun with it. I myself, just to show you, and this is to give claim to how much I do enjoy you know, RPGs and fantasy stuff and all that. You've seen that I do the artwork all the time, but you probably don't know to what extent I do this, my nerd level, if you should. Take a look at this. Right here is actually what my desk looks like. I actually have like a big diorama that I made from cutouts that you can download them for free, and then I just use cardboard and stuff like that. I also have other stuff here, like that. I did this shelf. I made that painting in the background to give it kind of like a, you know, more fantasy feel. That's cool. I paint too. I paint these little miniatures. Like these are from Legend of Drizzt. This is, I think I'm the happiest with the trolls. I did a pretty good job on them, I think. And of course, Barlog is my favorite, though. I painted him, and I think I really did a great job. I even added like a little bit of, you know, grass and stuff right here. I made kind of a gradient on his fire whip and a gradient on his ice sword type thingy, whatever, you know. But just to give you an idea of how nerdy I truly am, that really is one of my great passions, is RPG playing. And if you are really into it too, you don't even have to be in Japan to join up with some of us J-vloggers who play. You can find us on Google+. I'm sure you'll start to notice J-vlogger names on Google+. You can add us on there, and if you have time and you want to play and you're okay with the time zone, obviously we're really in a different time zone, you can try and join in on some of our games yourself if you're really into it like we are. Until then, if you have any other questions about this, I'd be very happy to answer these, as I'm always quite interested to talk about this stuff. Until next time, I'm Unrested, and this is JFAQ. Peace.